Hi, thanks for joining me. I thought today we could look at the new book launches for September. And since we're already like 20 days into the month, I thought it could be fun to look at how they're doing in terms of their ratings. What I'm looking at here is the GoodReads new releases for September 2024 by genre. I kind of have already picked through the ones that I'm interested in, but I just kind of picked ones from authors that I've read personally and that I would be interested in, and other authors. For example, Matt Haig. I've never read The Midnight Library, but it is on my TBR, so I thought maybe other people would be interested in him. So the first book I have tabbed is the one I was just talking about, The Life Impossible, sorry. So it's got 3.63 stars out of 7,152 ratings. Just as a side note, I don't base all my reads off of like ratings and reviews, but I do look at them when I'm reading, especially for books that I don't have any sort of like point of reference. I haven't seen it reviewed on YouTube. I haven't seen it like all over TikTok. That's kind of when I start looking at ratings, especially when I'm doing like book club picks. But ultimately, like, I do just make my own decisions. Mostly has 4 stars and 3 stars. And then I thought what we could do is kind of look at some 5-star reviews and then some 1-star reviews. Those are always fun. So, Charlotte Exiton. This book has profoundly impacted me. I needed it. By far my favorite of Matt's books, and a book I will hold very closely forever. I tried to read it slowly, but I couldn't. I tried not to fold pages over, but I had to. And then some pages that will be kept folded. Another winner from Matt Haig. I was totally transported by not only the moving story and the exquisite scenes that Matt Haig puts you in, but by the plight of our natural world. The Life Impossible is one of those novels you think about when you're not reading it, and I dare say I'll be thinking about it for days to come. Okay, that's got me hyped. Let's actually read what the heck this book's about. So, the remarkable next novel from Matt Haig, the author of the #1 New York Times bestseller, The Midnight Library, with more than 9 million copies sold worldwide. What looks like magic is simply a part of life we don't understand yet. When retired math teacher Grace Winters is left a rundown house on a Mediterranean island by a long-lost friend, curiosity gets the better of her. She arrives in Ibiza, with a one-way ticket, no guidebook, and no plan. Among the rugged hills and golden beaches of the island, Grace searches for answers about her friend's life and how it ended. What she uncovers is stranger than she could have dreamed. But to dive into the impossible truth, Grace must first come to terms with her past. Filled with wonder and wild adventure, this is a story of hope and the life-changing power of a new beginning. Personally, after reading that, not that interested. And its tags are fiction, fantasy, contemporary, historical fiction, magical realism. Okay, and then let's check out some 1-star reviews. Who forced the author to write this book? This is too boring. Honestly, it kind of sounded boring to me. Incredibly disappointing. This reads like a first draft. Oof. The structure and phrasing in the novel was like slogging through mud. Okay, that's like really harsh, I think. Whoa. The only reason I finished this book is because it was the only thing I had on the train, and it was better than staring at the back of the seat in front of me, but only just. The next book that I was interested in is a historical fiction novel called The Booklover's Library, and it's a heartwarming story about a mother and daughter in wartime England. I'm kind of like, because I read so much historical fiction, wartime England specifically, I feel like I'm always there in historical fiction. So I kind of now shy away from books set in World War II just because I've read so many recently and I need to kind of take a chill pill, but I think it's going to get a want to read from me. A heartwarming story about a mother and a daughter in wartime England and the power of the books that bring them together. In Nottingham, England, widow Emma Taylor finds herself in desperate need of a job to provide for herself and her beloved daughter, Olivia. But with the legal restrictions prohibiting widows with children from most employment opportunities, she's left with only one option: persuading the manageress at Booklover's Library to take a chance on her. When the threat of war becomes a reality... Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh. I can hear Freya at the door. I'm going to let her in. When the threat of war becomes a reality, Olivia must be evacuated to the countryside. In her daughter's absence, Emma seeks solace in the unlikely friendship she forms with her neighbors and co-workers, as well as the recommendations she provides to the library's quirky regulars. But the job doesn't come without its difficulties. Books are mysterious, misheveled, and disappearing. And her work forces her to confront the memories of her late father and the bookstore they once owned together before a terrible accident. As the Blitz intensifies in Nottingham and Emma fights to reunite with her daughter, she must learn to depend on her community and the power of literature more than ever to find hope in the darkest of times. Yeah, so to me that sounds really good. 4.23 rating. I'd say that's pretty great. All right, let's read some 5 stars. Wow, less than 1% with a 1-star rating. The Booklover's Library is a timely and powerful reminder that it's not just books that will get you through the darkest of days, but the people who love them right alongside you. Martin's meticulous research transports readers to bomb-ridden England and opens a door to a fascinating slice of library history that I've never heard about before. Okay, so that gets me excited, because then at least I'm reading about something in wartime England that I haven't read about before. Through it all, I cried, I sighed with joy, and I rooted for the complex and endearing characters. This love letter to literature, motherhood, and community should be at the top of any bibliophile's must-read list. Martin never disappoints. All right, it's on my want-to-read list. It made it. Okay, 1 star. Oh my gosh, there's literally only one 1-star review. I wanted to like this book so much. I thought it would have many of the elements I love: World War II, home fronts, books, women standing on their own, a fun library, especially knowing the history of lending libraries in Britain and Booth's early role. Maybe a light romance. But, this book had so little of the library in it, I almost threw my phone, and thus the ebook, across the room. The amount of time spent in the bookshop during the course of the novel probably counts up to less than a week. It should really be titled Olivia, because it's just a long book about a woman's obsession with her daughter. Everything circles back to Olivia. Okay, I feel like I'm just like learning too much from reading this, but this person is Courtney. I like their writing style. We'll just skip down. Oh, and there's spoilers here. I was incredibly frustrated by the writing itself. All tell, very little show. It's stilted, weirdly formal, and honestly kind of whiny. And so many random details the author wanted to include, but instead of incorporating them, she just dumped them into the story, like talking about the sand being dug out under Nottingham. And then a spoiler. All right. Courtney didn't like the book, but boy, can they write a review. The Vilest Things. So this isn't one that I'm going to do like a whole thing on. It's more just because I'm not interested in this. So The Vilest Things by Chloe Gong, like I had said, not something I'm going to do a whole deep dive into based on like, do I want to read it? Particularly because I have not started the Flesh and False Gods. I don't know if this is a duology or if it'll be more. But I did really enjoy These Violent Delights. So I thought this was worth mentioning that it came out this month. So it came out September 10th. And it has a 4.12 rating out of 791 rating, 348 reviews. We can check out the kind of split among the reviews. Mostly 4-star and like nearly 50% 4-star. Like that's pretty good. Somebody sedate me. I got the arc. Okay, cool. I'm ready to get hurt. Love that for you. Gorgeous cover. I absolutely adore the cover. She always has like really gorgeous like artwork on her books. I really don't see any that are amiss. When We Flew Away, a novel of Anne Frank before the diary, written by Alice Hoffman, and she is a best-selling author. I have one of her books, so it sounded familiar. I had to double check. And this is actually a middle grade and like YA book. I was at Indigo recently, and you know when you can like, I always like eavesdrop on what people are talking about just because bookstores are kind of quiet and I'm nosy. And I actually heard one of the sales associates kind of hyping up this book, and I thought it sounded interesting, and I didn't realize it was new until I checked this out. So it has a 4.18 rating out of 273 ratings. Anne Frank's The Diary of a Young Girl has captivated and inspired readers for decades. Published posthumously by her bereaved father, Anne's journal, written while she and her family were in hiding during World War II, has become one of the central texts of the Jewish experience during the Holocaust, as well as a work of literary genius. With the Nazi occupation of the Netherlands, the Frank family's life is turned inside out, blow by blow, restriction by restriction. Prejudice, loss, and terror run rampant, and Anne is forced to bear witness as ordinary people become monsters, and children and families are caught up in the inescapable tide of violence. In the midst of impossible danger, Anne, audacious and creative and fearless, discovers who she truly is. With a wisdom far beyond her years, she becomes a writer who will go on to change the world as we know it. Critically acclaimed author Alice Hoffman weaves a lyrical and heart-wrenching story of the way the world closes in on the Frank family from the moment the Nazis invade the Netherlands until they are forced into hiding, bringing Anne to bold, vivid life. Based on extensive research and published in cooperation with the Anne Frank House in Amsterdam, When We Flew Away is an extraordinary and moving tour de force. So, let us check out the 5 stars. Emily received an ARC, just so that's, made aware. Anne Frank significantly influenced me as a young adult reader. I discovered her diary when I was around 12 and found a kindred spirit in her. I saw myself in her, and through her eyes was able to imagine the horrors of the Holocaust in a way that I hadn't before. I was both skeptical and excited to read this book. Agreed. The author would need to take some liberties, and I'm very protective of Anne. I shouldn't have worried. If any author can handle such a delicate task, it's Alice Hoffman. It was like she was channeling Anne through this book. Set just 2 years before going into hiding, we're able to witness what it was like in Europe for Jewish people. We see Anne's life in Amsterdam as they go from relatively safe to completely unsafe. We see her with her friends and get a peek at her relationship with her parents and sister, and a potential first love. It reminds us of a time when she was more innocent of the world, when there was still hope of getting out, when the potential was still there for a chance of safety and future. That's gut-wrenching to think about. A pet peeve of mine is the fact that for many people, the only book they might ever read about the Holocaust is Anne Frank's diary. This means they only get a glimpse at it. They know it was bad enough that her family had to go into hiding, but they don't have to deal with the lead-up or the aftermath. Having a book like this to pair with her diary gives a fuller picture of events. Add something like the Library of Auschwitz and They Went Left, and now you have the complete picture. Hoffman reminds us through the story that we need to remember. We need to bear witness, and we can still do that through stories like Anne's. I recommend this book for children ages 12 plus. I was wondering what the kind of age range for this, given that it's classified as middle grade, what would be appropriate. And then she also does include that she got a free e-arc in exchange for an honest review. This was beautiful and so full of hope, which also makes it so sad. Yeah. Bringing Anne's world to life. Okay, 1 star. 1. I picked up When We Flew Away with the expectation of a heartfelt exploration of Anne Frank's early life, but I found it to be a disappointing experience. Although marketed to middle schoolers, the book felt like a poorly executed attempt at appealing to adults, lacking the depth and connection needed to engage young readers. Okay. Hoffman's writing is undeniably lyrical and mystical, but it often overshadows the characters in the story. The Anne in this novel is not the spirited girl from her diary. Instead, she seems to possess adult thoughts that don't align with her age. This portrayal, along with her family's apparent awareness of their tragic fate, made it difficult to immerse myself in their emotional journey. Rather than allowing readers to interpret feelings, the narrative feels heavy-handed, outlining thoughts and emotions instead of letting them unfold naturally. Moreover, the story lacks a strong historical foundation. While it draws on the little we know about Anne Frank, it often feels like a collection of feelings than a cohesive narrative. The historical context has been minimal, which detracts from the authenticity one might expect in historical fiction. The book might have worked better as an original story rather than trying to create a new version of such well-known figures. In the end, We Flew Away left me wanting more connection and authenticity. It didn't resonate with me, and I doubt my middle school kids would find it engaging either. While Hoffman's poetic style has its merits, it ultimately misses the mark for a meaningful portrayal of Anne Frank. I am going to put that on my want to read. I actually ended up starting crying a little while I was reading that. Meaning this book's going to absolutely tear me apart. Okay, here one moment. My friend's actually reading this. It's not something that I personally want to read, although I do like mystery and thriller. So it's like a plain thing. I think I'll wait to see what my friend rates it ultimately and base my judgment on if I want to read it from her. I do follow her on GoodReads, so I'll see her review. Or her rating. She doesn't write reviews. Here One Moment by Leanne Moriarty. It has a 4.22 rating out of 8,431 ratings. If you knew your future, would you try to fight fate? Aside from a delay, there will be no problems. The flight will be smooth. It will land safely. Everyone who gets on the plane will get off, but almost all of them will be forever changed. Based on this ordinary short domestic flight, something extraordinary happens. People learn how and when they are going to die. For some, their death is far in the future, age 103, and they laugh. But for 6 passengers, their predicted deaths are not far away at all. How do they know this? There were ostensibly more interesting people on the flight. The bride and groom, the jittery, possibly famous woman, the giant Hemsworth-esque guy who looks like an off-duty superhero, the frazzled, gorgeous flight attendant. But none would become as famous as the Death Lady. Not a single passenger or crew member will later recall noticing her board the plane. She wasn't exceptionally old or young, rude or polite. I'm adding this to my want to read. She wasn't drunk or nervous or pregnant. Her appearance and demeanor were unremarkable, but what she did on that flight was truly remarkable. A few months later, 1 passenger dies exactly as she predicted. Then 2 more passengers die again. And she said they would. Soon, no one is thinking this is simply an entertaining story at a cocktail party. If you were told you only had a certain amount of time left to live, would you do things differently? Would you try to dodge your destiny? Okay. I don't remember if I said that I was waiting for my friend to give me her review. I want to read this now. So let's read some 5-star reviews here. An exceptionally well-written story about a woman who predicts the time and manner of death of all her fellow passengers. At first, I was morbidly fascinated, but as I became connected with the characters, I became deeply invested in their fates. Only a writer as talented as Leanne could juggle so many characters and make each one rich and complex. Highly recommend. Outlaw Poet has some recommendations for us when reading this. Have tissues ready. Check, always. Have your phone ready because you're going to make an appointment with your doctor for a full checkup, and be prepared to start living for the day instead of what may or may not happen tomorrow. This is a tearjerker of a novel. The author lets us into the hopes, fears, and dreams of every one of these characters, and you simply don't want to come up for air. The reason behind everything is unique and very clever, and I was so there for it. This one stays with you. Okay, this person also got an ARC via the publisher, just for your reference. And if you don't know, ARC stands for Advanced Reader Copy, is my assumption. I actually don't know. I do know that it means they get it in advance, though. So, yeah, I've already added this to my want to read, but let's check out some 1-stars. Again, it's less than 1%. Okay, but this is someone who did get an ARC, so that is interesting. I have a complicated relationship with the author. I was a big fan of Big Little Lies. Okay, didn't realize she wrote that. I do own that. Haven't read it. But I haven't read a book by her for a while. When I saw the premise of this, I was intrigued and pleased when my request was approved. Perfect. The author can write, but the narrative is bogged down with exposition, filler, and multiple characters and POVs. Readers are introduced to Cherry, the psychic fortune teller in question, who reminisces about her past and present, what led her to that fateful moment on the plane, foretelling the deaths of numerous passengers. Some of these deaths come true. Is Cherry psychic or just random luck? I wasn't interested in Cherry or her life or any of the lives of the 6 passengers we follow after they disembarked from the plane. Their narrative was too long, too drawn out, too tedious. I didn't need to know about Cherry's life story or the lives of the 6 characters. I think you just didn't like this book. The moral of the story is, if you had a chance to change your future, would you do it? Change is hard, but wanting to shake up your routine and do better to alter the future is harder. Harder than death for most people. I don't really feel like this review was very helpful. Big DNF. I got about 5 to 6 chapters in and it never stopped being the narrative stream of consciousness rambling. It's just sidetrack after sidetrack and of absolutely no importance and so much repetition. So bored and then crying. I like that start. Moriarty is a great writer and has the ability to make you feel things deeply. That is the good part. The bad part is that this book is so unbearably boring and there are so many people. A huge cast of characters is always tricky, but it doesn't work at all here. I keep waiting for the plot to develop, but alas, much like the US presidential... Okay, whoa. Let's not get political. Emily, I think, considering 44% of the people who reviewed this 5-starred it, 37 4-starred it, and less than 1%, I think I'm going to keep it on my want to read, but I am curious to see what my friend rates it as now. Okay, this one isn't something that I'm going to even do the normal thing on. I just thought if people like Gilmore Girls and they like memoirs, this came out. Kelly Bishop, the third Gilmore Girl, and it's coming out September 17th, so it's already out. This one, I already did a little bit of looking into this one, is Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. I liked Normal People. I know that book's fairly polarizing. You either like it or you don't like it. So it's rated 4.33 stars out of 1,144 ratings. An exquisitely moving story about grief, love, and family from the global phenomenon Sally Rooney. Aside from the fact that they are brothers, Peter and Ivan Kupek seem to have little in common. Peter is a Dublin lawyer in his 30s, successful, competent, and apparently unassailable. But in the wake of their father's death, he's medicating himself to sleep and struggling to manage his relationship with 2 very different women. His enduring first love, Sylvia, and Naomi, a college student from whom life is one long joke. Ivan is a 22-year-old competitive chess player. This is why I'm kind of interested. He has always seen himself as socially awkward, a loner, the antithesis of his glib elder brother. Now, in the early weeks of his bereavement, Ivan meets Margaret, an older woman emerging from her own turbulent past, and their lives become rapidly and intensely intertwined. For 2 grieving brothers and the people they love, this is a new interlude. A period of desire, despair, and possibility. A chance to find out how much one life might hold inside itself without breaking. So this book came out... Okay, so this book comes out September 24th, which is this Tuesday. Okay, so a lot of people got arcs here. Okay, let's look for someone who didn't have an arc. But that's not possible because it hasn't come out yet. Everyone's had an arc. Okay. I've now realized after reading a couple reviews that because this hasn't come out, Normal People haven't left reviews yet. And it's all arcs. I was trying to find people who didn't leave arc reviews. But I can't. So... Elle really liked it, and she had a really great buddy read with her friend Emma. Okay. Well, I'd like to see this friendship right here. Elle and Emma, and then it's the 2 of them. How cute. 4.5. Okay, I wish GoodReads let you do points. That's one of the reasons I like Storygraph better. Sally Rooney is such a talent for writing about interpersonal relationships and human connection, and something I'll never tire of reading. Political zest. Okay, so I've skipped down here. Okay, so there's commentary on wage labor, the housing crisis in Dublin, monetary power dynamics, religion, existentialism, and discussions of chronic pain. Very interesting. I do like to read 1-star arcs because that means they really didn't freaking like it if they got the book for free. If I could give no stars, I would. Leanne, I've read a book like that before too. DNF at 5%. Why do I keep reading Sally Rooney when I've never liked her books? Fair. Interested in 450 plus pages of men complaining about their lives? No. And being complete assholes? No. And the women being so poorly written and one-dimensional? No. Then this is the book for that person. Do not read if you hate men or listening to what men have to say. This is an entire book of just that. Biggest letdown of a highly anticipated release in a long time. A pathetic excuse of a book. Tell us how you really feel. But I personally will be checking out Intermezzo. Okay, Stay is classified as just like a book I wanted to make sure people knew was out. I know Elle Kennedy is fairly popular because she had that big hockey series. I read the first one and I did like it actually. It was cute. And I do have, I think, the second book in the series. Maybe I should read that. I kind of need like just a good romance. And I guess this is in a WAG series. So she has Good Boy and then Stay is the second one. So that's cool. So this came out September 17th. So it's out. One person on Indigo rated it 5-star. You go, Elle Kennedy. The last two books I'm so excited for. I'm not going to do anything based off of ratings or, make decisions like that from reading reviews. I know I'm going to read these. And that is We Solve Murders by Richard Osman. I have loved the Thursday Murder Club, and as you can see, I already have it on my want to read. I'm so excited for it. It'll probably be my next one. Cozy Mystery. I didn't even know that was a thing. I'm going to look at that later. Okay, and then the second one is Somewhere Beyond the Sea by TJ Klune. I also have I didn't have that as marked as want to read. What a fake fan. I loved the Cerulean Sea. It was so cute, and it was just such a perfect read. I'm pretty sure I gave that a 5-star. It might have been my only 5-star of last year. So I don't even want to read the synopsis because I want to just go in full immersion, not know what's going on. But 4.46 out of 8,000 reviews. Can't wait. I did listen to Cerulean Sea on audiobook. If it's the same narrator, I might wait. I am so excited, but just that narrator, it was just such a perfect audiobook. So I might wait for the audiobook. I should get myself on that waiting list if I'm not already on it. I think I am. Going through all the books from the September releases, I will for sure be reading Somewhere Beyond the Sea, We Solve Murders. Stay I'm not reading, so we can close it. Intermezzo, I plan on reading. I don't know when. I think I have to be in the right type of mood. So we'll see when I get around to it, but it's for sure on my TBR. Here, One Moment, I'm going to wait for my friend's official review. I'm 75% want to read it, and I think this would be a really good book when I don't know what I want to read, and it's just kind of a good thriller. The Booklover's Library, yeah, I don't know. I want to read it, but I don't know when I want to read it. I don't want to read this. I have no interest. That was me going through all of these September new releases and determining the ones that I will 100% read and getting some more info. I thought it may be helpful for people who don't keep up with the new releases as much, like me, honestly, and who do value reviews and ratings. Even if you don't, sometimes they're just good to know. Let me know if you'll be checking out any books from those September releases or any other ones that are coming out that you think I need to look into. I always love to know about new books. Not that I'll necessarily read them because the TBR is ever growing, but I need more time in the day. Oh, you can kind of see Freya. That is so cute. You probably hear her too. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a great week. Don't forget to comment, and subscribe down below. Bye.